I get constant allegations from viewers every single day. So today, not only am I going to be discussing some accusations, but also some burning topics I've been seeing for quite some time now. Our first comment comes from Tango Down Production, and he says, I have certainly run into cheaters while playing. If we're being honest, I'm glad. I'm glad they are there. I personally blame streamers for destroying Call of Duty. They've proven if you play a metric ton of hours and play like there's $1 million jackpot for winning a match, it's considered fun. For those of us who want to enjoy a casual game with the boys, we no longer fire up Call of Duty. I hope hackers literally take over Call of Duty. Streamers and mega sweaty people playing is what created that monster. You made your bed, now lie in it. First thing I'm gonna go ahead and point out here is from JGod. Now he has a video titled Activision goes all in on skill-based matchmaking in Black Ops 6 proof. And a lot of what this guy's comment comes down to is skill-based matchmaking and the confusion that comes around it. And to put it nicely, skill-based matchmaking actually is not just skill-based matchmaking. It's not just about skill. And Call of Duty did a great overview of what all the things that they put in the matchmaking system are, but the goal of the matchmaking system is retention or engagement. They want you to stay engaged with their game. But if you look at JGod's graph here, what it shows is the KD Warzone. Now, this is all derived from what I understand to be the Caldera API on the back end. Now, so this is technically probably something that's changed over time, but it's the closest thing we have to see what players are at what kill death ratio and stuff like that. So obviously you can see here at the end that at the top 3%, that's where you get that 2 KD. The top 10% is actually about a 1.5. And the most common, the absolute most common KD is a 0.86. And look, there's a big fall off behind it and it slowly falls off in front of it. But the big thing you need to understand is that skill-based matchmaking doesn't work the way you think it does, right? So you would think naturally these people, the top 2 KD players, right? They are never going to run into these guys. But in Warzone, it's a little bit different. You have something called retention-based matchmaking or engagement-optimized matchmaking, whatever you want to title it. I think we really need to focus on calling it retention because the goal is to retain the players, which means if a player's having a good game, the next game, most likely they're going to have a bad game because they want to throw them a bone here and there. And that bone that is the good game. Now, some players are just bad, and no offense to old productions here, but he may not be the greatest player. This isn't to sit here and talk smack. This is to say that there's players that are really, really good that naturally, even without doing things to try and get into lower skilled lobbies, these top players, even if they are or aren't streamers, are going to fight against the lower skilled players because Call of Duty is naturally throwing them a bone and making it an easier lobby for them. This can't happen all the time. It's physically impossible for it to happen all the time because there's not enough good players or there's not enough bad players and everybody needs their own bone thrown at them. But the whole thing is it all comes down to the matchmaking system, not the content creators, not the streamers, not any of these people. And sure, you may say, oh, I'm trying to protect streamers. We're going to get into that a little bit later as to whether or not I actually care about other content creators in the space. But it really does come down to Activision. With something like this, something like are streamers ruining the game? Just like you would say, well, content creators don't make the game. Call of Duty stands on its own, right? You can't have it both ways. If content creators don't make the game, they don't grow the game, they don't make it what it is today, then you can't say that it's also causing that negative effect that you're seeing with the game's decline. And I will also note that the game's supposedly doing better than ever. And we'll get into some statistics that we have. I mean, Call of Duty as a whole, not necessarily Warzone, which is obviously what we're talking about. But realistically, none of what he said holds any bearings whatsoever because it's not backed by facts. It's not backed by pretty much anything. It's just feelings. And I get that. It's just that we really need to focus on putting the blame where it should lie, which is Activision not doing the things that they should be doing, which is hiring people that can detect the cheaters better, doing a better anti-cheat. We should be making sure that they are actively listening to the regular player, not just looking at data on the back end, because back end data doesn't tell the whole story. Retention doesn't necessarily mean players are having fun, because trust me, I've seen people do things over and over and over, not because they're having fun, but because they really want to get that thing done. Think about the end of the night when you're like, let's, one more boys, we got to rally, we got to get this win. Call of Duty decides if you get the win sometimes. That's what it comes down to. They give you the best opportunity to get that win. And of course, whether or not you pull up and get that clutch is on you, but it's not all what you think. The Sliced Bread says, so the main issue is that they have a whitelist that allows certain streamers to cheat. If the streamers have the schedule for sweeps, they won't have to continuously unban streamers. So they have the sweeps to catch others and give streamers the chance to turn off or log off the cheat program so they aren't caught. And that, just like a lot of the stuff we're going to be looking into, is definitely a pretty wild conspiracy theory. And don't get me wrong, I personally align with some conspiracy theories myself. Don't get me wrong, but being on the back end of a lot of these things and like seeing how streamers communicate with each other, knowing what the back channel conversations are here and there. And don't get me wrong, I'm not invited to any crazy back end channels or anything like that, but I do hear down the grapevine some of the things like that happen, like certain groups of content creators, cliques if you will, which again we'll get into later, will get together in a Discord and everybody will throw out ideas for videos, and then if one person says I'm going to do this video, don't steal it, no one steals it. I know that that's a thing 100%. I know there's also certain Discords that have special VPNs so that certain people can get away with easier and easier lobbies. I know these things do exist, but I don't have any proof of it. So I mean, at least that's my conspiracy. That's things that I've heard down the grapevine, but I hear what this guy's saying. However, it doesn't change that he's just not right. And I have one perfect example to show, and that's going to be Bobby Poff. Now, as you can see, Bobby Poff, way back on October 3rd, was permanently banned. If you don't know Bobby Poff, this guy is massive. He, if you just look at his bio here, is a Twitch partner, 3 times Warzone champion. He is a massive creator. He's been massive for a very long time. And I even when I was able to make this my job back in Blackout, which again, we're going to talk about later, he was huge. He had like 1,000 viewers all the time, and he was doing better than every other creator in the space. This guy is massive, and Call of Duty banned him. And another player, Nitro Luke DX, who I, for the life of me, cannot find information on Twitter, but that guy also got banned. And the big thing that you need to understand is, one, Bobby Poff got unbanned, and the reason why is because it was actually a mistake on Activision's part, but Nitro Luke DX, a content creator with 700,000 followers on Facebook, is still banned to this day because he was cheating. These guys are people that have worked with Activision in the past. Bobby Poff is absolutely massive. He's been in multiple events. He's gone to COD Next multiple times, and they still, for multiple weeks, told Bobby it was on him. He got banned because he was cheating. Turns out he wasn't cheating. In fact, multiple people from behind the scenes of like cheats and stuff like that, cheat developers, were like, hey, he wasn't cheating, I got him banned, right? Things like that happened. And it's wild to me that people still sit here and believe that Call of Duty even cares about the creators, because no matter who you are, they will just get rid of you. It is what it is. Even if you are best buddies, and I don't know anything personally about Bobby Poff, but even if you are best friends with like the creator team over at Activision, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get banned. It doesn't mean that you have an opportunity, because Ricochet, the Ricochet team, the people that do all the anti-cheat stuff, are completely separated. Completely separated. They do have conversations with the creator team. I want to be very clear about that, because I actually reached out because I was getting shadow banned multiple times. Nothing ever changed. I can still get shadow banned. I'm not whitelisted in any capacity, but I did reach out and I was like, hey, is there any way to get help with this? Can someone just look at my account? And it took a few days, but they said they'd pass along the information. Obviously nothing has changed. So Ricochet, the team that works for it, will just do what they want. That's what it comes down to. And maybe I'm not big enough to get all this stuff or something like that, but I've been in the space for a long time. And even after 10 years of making videos, specifically on Call of Duty, it technically 14 now if you include my old channels back when I did Black Ops 1 content at the ripe age of like 12. I'm telling you, I've not seen things like this anywhere, and I don't have anyone to protect. I have no one to protect because I'm not friends with anyone in this space. I could probably give you a list of like less than 10 people that I actually even like. Probably less than 5 that I really like. I like Jay Broski, I like Iceman Isaac, I like Joe Woe. I'm acquaintances with Breadman. I've met him in real life. Bobby, I've shook hands with. Like never talked to him outside of that. I DM'd him whenever all this happened, and I tried to show him like some stuff for the cheat stuff. Didn't respond to a single DM, which is what it is. It's not like I'm here to Bobby, but I saw some things and I figured he should know. Turns out he knew because he talked about it. But I've met Repulse in person. Dude was very, very nice. Of all the people that he talks with, like I can't think of what their group's called, but all those guys, the Baka Bros, he was definitely the nicest. I've met some people in FaZe who are not the nicest. And there's a lot of content creators behind the scenes that are real pieces of garbage. And I mean that. Real pieces of garbage. But it doesn't mean that they are or aren't cheating. And it definitely doesn't mean that there is or isn't a whitelist that completely keeps you from getting banned, because Bobby did have Streamer Plus, which is what the quote whitelist is. And it's something that's used for the World Series of Warzone and things of that nature. It also allows you to change your name in game. That way people don't spam report you just because of who you are. And Bobby, even with the whitelist, got banned. So if that doesn't tell you something, I really don't know what will. Devil's Advocate 1338 says, you're a liar, Expel. You've definitely reverse boosted and used VPNs. All the COD streamers are lying fakes. No. I haven't done both of those things. I have, one, absolutely used a VPN in the past. I used No Lag VPN at the beginning of Warzone 1. Not the beginning, but a little bit midway through Warzone 1. We're talking about like Verdansk days. I used it for evading cheaters, for one, and getting lower ping lobbies. If you didn't know, No Lag VPN, the reason it's called No Lag VPN, before these gaming VPNs showed up, what they would do is they would give you lower ping lobbies. It was to give you lower ping. Now, if you look up No Lag now, they've changed their whole branding, but if you use the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive or whatever it's called, you can go way back to the beginning of 2021 and you can see that it was lower ping in games with a VPN. So it was all about protection and making sure you had low ping. But now it doesn't exist like that. Now they've rebranded so that they can make a crap load of money off of people that want to get easier lobbies in Warzone. And that's what it was used for. Now, for me, I have since switched to something called exit lag, because my goal is to get lower ping lobbies. Make sure that my connection to the server is as good as it can be, because I hate, and I mean I hate lagging. If you ever watched me way back in the day, whenever I did Blackout, one of my biggest pet peeves, because I had Spectrum Internet, and now I do have Spectrum Internet, but it's Spectrum Fiber versus Spectrum Fake Fiber. I don't know what the hell they call it, but I actually love my internet now. It's very great. I'm not trying to, this isn't sponsored, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that I've always had this big gripe about internet speed and making sure my ping was good, making sure my connection was good, because I hate lagging. I hate losing to things that are outside of my control. So I've always looked for ways to get better ping, even if that's getting a better router or anything like that. So if you want to say other content creators are lying fakes, that's fine, take it up with them. But for me, I have the reasons that I use the things that I use. And if you want to check out Exit Lag, this isn't sponsored, but I have actually worked with Exit Lag in the past, because if you go and you look up, is Exit Lag able to give you easier lobbies, it even says on their website, hey, we don't do that. We just make sure your connection is clean. They get rid of the buffer and stuff like that. I'm Somebody to God said, if the content creators mean nothing to Call of Duty, why does COD send them Christmas presents, event presents, and fly them around the world to advertise their game? Now, I get that. I absolutely get that. I completely understand the idea behind, all right, well, why are they giving them things? Well, the big thing is you have to understand advertising. And on the back end, if you look, content creators are the biggest form of free advertising. Now, of course, they could send them $200 worth of free stuff, and if they send $200 worth of free stuff, knowing that someone like Bobby Poff would probably charge $6,000 to $10,000 for an ad spot, they create a relationship where they have to spend less money on certain people and get a absolute metric load of impressions, right? So if you get someone a gift and that person really enjoys the gift and they tweet out, look at this cool gift, it just reminds people that Call of Duty exists. Now, with that in mind, you're like, okay, well, we've got to make sure on Activision's side, you're thinking that they're thinking, we got to make sure these content creators are happy, make sure they're not getting banned. But then again, you look back at that situation with Bobby Poff where they literally banned him, right? He got unbanned because it was unjust. And they also, ironically, unbanned a whole bunch of people that also went through the exact same situation, but were not as large and didn't have the opportunity to speak like Bobby did. So they unban all these people, and it's so crazy because they still have not apologized for causing so much problems, so many problems in Bobby's career. They have literally just like knocked him so far down, even though he wasn't cheating. Call of Duty does not care. And the big reason why is because there's a billion content creators. There's a billion people on the internet that could hop in, play the game, and if Call of Duty promotes them and then they promote Call of Duty, it's this cycle back and forth. So they can do whatever they want. They can build whoever they want. And in fact, I'm not trying to talk smack here in the slightest, but I know of certain creators that have really never made videos, have really not grown an audience on their own, and Call of Duty, because some people at Call of Duty work there, would invite them to things like Call of Duty Next. And they would grow because of that. Now, sure, they were able to grow their own brand outside of that, and that's why I'm saying I don't want to take away from it, but to say that they need a specific content creator is very misinformed. They can build up a content creator, and a content creator can be built up by pushing their stuff back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until it's worth it. So I wish that I could say, yes, there's this big conspiracy and Activision needs the content creators, because then me having as many impressions as I get throughout the year, I would get invited to every Call of Duty event, but I don't get invited to every Call of Duty event. It's not about that. It's not about protecting anybody. They care about good impressions and things like that. So if that person is not getting good impressions, or that person gets, banned, they can just move on to the next person and move on to the next person. There's an infinite number of content creators that can just replace the last one. Also, full transparency, they sent me the package. They sent me the package this year, and I've not posted it a single time. Not one time, because I am in utter disbelief at how poorly this integration has gone. This is probably, ironically, going to hurt my chances to work with them in the future. But it felt very wrong, It felt very wrong to be like, well, Call of Duty's in the toilet right now, but what if we talked about this Yeti cooler they sent me, TRD T4R said they could easily do just like Apple did with the jailbreak, hire the creators and developers of the hack softwares to detect. It's super easy, but they obviously won't. I'm not saying all streamers are cheaters, but it's obvious that banning cheaters will affect so many streamers, and that will highly affect the number of people who play the game. That's the only reason why they don't do a proper cheat ban. And this is another one that I hear where it's like, it's the streamers, that's the reason they don't ban people. Again, we've seen time and time again that they will ban streamers. It does not matter. Ricochet is a completely different entity. Even the creator team will reach out to Ricochet and they won't do a gosh dang thing about it, just to be very clear. Or at least that's my experience. So to say that all streamers, or not all streamers are cheating, but the reason that they don't ban cheaters is for streamers, doesn't make any sense. I will say it would be great if they could actually set up Ricochet to detect everything. It's insane to me that we don't have it set up that way. I don't know how it would happen. I don't know if it has to be a completely full kernel level anti-cheat, but they should definitely be paying people to come in and make sure that certain things aren't possible. I know it's just like they don't want to spend the money, but good Lord have mercy. It is definitely frustrating. Zay6000 said, does this guy make original content? This is the third video I clicked where it's a glorified reaction. And Brody said, so you basically just talk over someone else's video for views. Now, the video that these guys are talking about is where I reacted to and gave my opinion on Westy's video titled Warzone is dying because of cheaters. And you may notice, if you look right here, that his video is actually 12 minutes long. However, if you go and you look at the analytics of my video, first of all, my video is 43 minutes long. And the average view duration of all of my viewers so far on a video that's gotten 28,000 views talking about this specifically is more than his entire video's length. So when people always say like, all this dude does is react to videos. When you say react, what exactly do you mean? I would love to agree with you and say, yes, all I do is react. And don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people get very annoyed whenever I just sit there and pause the video on repeat to say something. But my goal is to add value to these videos that I react to, quote. But in reality, all I'm doing is adding my opinion, adding in context, giving information that people might not have added, stuff like that. That is my goal whenever I take these videos and talk about them, because a lot of these guys do have great videos that are worth talking about. However, some of them leave out a ton of context for the sake of making the video a little bit shorter, making it easier to consume. And my goal is not necessarily to make my videos easier to consume. You may have noticed lately that I've just been pretty raw in my content, not caring about what's going on in the background. I've been making sure that if you want to watch the video, you have to just listen. So I don't really care about retention hacking my viewers. And if you look on screen right here, you can see my average view duration, once again, was longer than his entire video. And this isn't like a flex or anything. This is just to say that obviously people aren't just watching the video to watch me react to his video. People don't even know until I start the video that I'm reacting to someone else's video and sharing my opinion. So no, my goal is not just to react, but to talk about things that are prominent in the space, that are important, and a lot of people are talking about right now. I want to share my opinion on things like that. And if people get value out of it, that is my goal. At some point in time, I mentioned that Cronus users were running rampant on PlayStation and Xbox. And Dubzilla said at Expel, Cronus that has actively been stopped from being used by both the console manufacturers, yeah? And even if they weren't, are you actually saying more people who play on console, the casual way of playing, have purchased a $150 attachment to cheat on Call of Duty? And furthermore, more of them have purchased this device than PC players have purchased a cheat package that is instantly available. This is such a reach. PC is the main source of cheating. Saying otherwise is lying to your audience. First of all, yes, I am actually saying that. Now, whether or not I have the numbers is physically impossible. I can't show you the numbers. I can't say this is the number of people that are cheating. It's not possible on either end. It physically is not possible. And we are playing a guessing game. Some people are going to tell you 50% of people are cheating. Some people are going to tell you 90% of players are cheating. Some people are going to say there's 2% of people cheating. And for me, I would say probably across the board, about 5 to 10% of players are cheating. Because realistically, you'd be running into a lot more players doing wild things. But as for the Cronus Zen comment, yeah, it does work. And I hate mentioning this because I know this is probably going to lead to people buying some. But if you go to Cronus Zen's website, it literally says Zen supports all major consoles. Embrace the freedom of choice with Cronus Zen, designed to seamlessly integrate with all major gaming consoles, including PS5, Xbox Series S, all that nonsense, right? That already exists. In reality, you can go to their website and see that they do support it. In fact, from what I understand, every time that it has become detectable by Call of Duty or by PlayStation or by Xbox, within probably a week, it's immediately not detectable again because they push an update to the device and then it's good to go. I'm not joking. It's absolutely absurd. But the thing you need to understand is that for years, Cronus Zens have been on back order and completely unable to be purchased here and there because so many of them are being bought. And you got to keep in mind, this is literally a little USB stick in most cases. And in not most cases, it's this size, right? It's basically fitting in the palm of your hand. This is not something crazy to manufacture. So they have made so many. In fact, I'm pretty sure if you go to Amazon and you look at Cronus Zen, which is probably not a good idea for me to look up, but you guys are watching this video, you know that's why I'm looking it up. You can see it's got 10,000 reviews. I don't know how to see how many people have purchased it, but I know for a gosh dang fact, for something to have 10,000 views, probably a few million have to have been sold. I don't know if they're all being used on Call of Duty, but I can say that a ton of people are cheating by doing stuff like that, modded controllers, and things that are still very undetectable in the space. And I'll say it again, it's a lot of people. Sure, it's more casual, but the cheats are also more casual. You may believe that downloading PC cheats and clicking a button is how you install it. That would be completely incorrect. If you ever watch a video of how these people get away with cheating, it's not just downloading, clicking a button. It is a bunch of like moving packages, moving things into specific files and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of who it is. Caps Locked. If you look up a video by Caps Locked, he literally has a guy that explains a ton of stuff about the cheats. Now, once you get it all installed and it all works, you can use a little USB and you just plug all that stuff in, right? But the big thing is it's a lot more difficult because you have to set all your settings, get everything set up so it's completely undetectable and stuff like that. It's not super simple, at least from my understanding. That's just from the videos that I've seen from other creators that have talked to literal cheat developers, literal high-end, like crazy undetectable cheats and stuff like that from these people, like high-end undetectable cheaters that have multiple accounts and go in and do it for other people and stuff like that. That's what I know. This is information that I've been given from people that have done a ton of research. So it's not like I'm saying you don't know what you're talking about, but in this case, you may not know as much as you think you do. There are a ton of people that use things like that, and there's no reason for them to be using it on a PC because they can just use other cheats, right? So only people on console would have that Cronus. I'm just saying, man, there's a lot of people cheating on console. And for the record, I never said that there are for certain more people cheating on console, but I was saying that there's likely more people cheating on console. We don't have the numbers. There's no way for me to have the numbers. So I apologize if there's confusion there, but I can't prove anything. You can't prove anything. This is just a matter of opinion, and mine just has more facts behind it with the data that we have available to us. Ironically, Melissa Flores said 100% correct that there's probably, funny, more cheaters on console with the Corona Zen and other peripherals that they should not be using. It's crazy how the majority of people that play this game have just perfect aim and tracking, especially in that 5-meter range where you're not supposed to have aim assist. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I have to say, like, it's funny again where you see completely conflicting comments from multiple people whenever you're listening to the same information from the same person. I think the big thing is a lot of people have issues listening to what's being said. And I'm not talking smack about either of the guys from before, but when I say there's most likely, it's most likely, and it's based on the information that we have at hand, the data that you can look up if you take 8 seconds to use Google. So make sure to do that before you go and question someone. Be like, well, this is my opinion, but your opinion might not mean anything if you didn't do any research beforehand, like people that work in this space and have to do it 8 hours a day have looked into these things. And again, I don't find myself to be the end all be all, but I'm telling you, I've done a lot more research on things than people are led to believe. I Claim Uzi said, jailing cheaters is wild. If you look at the grand scheme of things, it's a video game. It's not real life. If they're not cheating in cash cups, then get over it and move on. You lost 15 minutes of your life that you were already willing to give away when you pressed start/play. And this guy is talking about IQ of the country and critical thinking. I do tend to talk about the IQ of certain people, and the issue is because I get a lot of comments that are pretty brain dead. I'm not gonna lie to you. I get a lot of people that have no idea what they're talking about. They just assume stuff. They hear something done like somewhere else. They don't look it up themselves. They just make things up sometimes. I do talk about that quite a lot, and people will just pretty much believe anything that matches what they already believe, or something that they have an inkling that might be true. If someone else, regardless of the research being done, if someone else has the same idea, then they will just immediately believe it. That's kind of the world we live in now, and I think there's quite a few reasons for that. But also, again, the average IQ of people in America is under 100. That is 30 points away from being mentally handicapped, right? And that's just to say that people probably could have a higher IQ. They just likely don't try in life. They don't try to do any critical thinking. They don't attempt things. And that's not me talking smack in the slightest. That's just to let you know what the world we live in is, that people are just going to throw stuff out there while having absolutely no idea what they're talking about and just saying things that they believe to be true, even if it has no backing in real life. Now, aside from that, what he was saying was that jailing cheaters is wild. I mentioned something about I wish that we would just put people that cheat in video games in prison based on a few parameters. Now, what I said realistically is I was saying maybe if cheaters were given a certain number of like dollars per hour that they're wasting in other people's time, then they can get like a felony or something like that. Say this person has 15 eliminations and they add up the time of all the people that they eliminate in the game and how much time was wasted. Well, if they do that at $10 per hour after a couple of games, what ends up happening is they've wasted all this time from a bunch of different people leading up to, like, let's say $950, which ends up being a felony. So if they get a felony, they can either get jail time or they have to pay a fine or something like that. Now, the idea behind that is that, let's say, you go do overtime at your job. And when the overtime is done, you spent all that time doing the overtime, you agreed to do the overtime, and your goal was to get something out of the overtime, whether that be money or something like that. You spent your time doing that thing for a reason. And then the company goes, yeah, no, we're taking all of that. You don't get anything. We're just going to steal that away from you. That's basically, at the end of the day, what cheaters are doing to the average person. These people have a certain allotted time in their day, and they choose to do something where they are expecting to go into something where there aren't cheaters, right? So if someone is stealing that time away from them, it's good to know that time equates to money in a certain parameter. If you think about it, people getting mugged, people having things stolen from their house, you are not upset because something got stolen from you. You're upset that you lost all that time. If you think about life in the way that you should, everything comes down to time, how much time you have in your life. Because one day we're all, this is a crazy, wild thing to say, but one day we're all gonna die. The only thing we can't get back is the amount of time that we have. And if people are stealing that away, I think that's disgusting. I think it's terrible. And that is why I will always be against cheating in a video game. Even if it is like a pastime, I get it, but you should not do something like that. You shouldn't steal away time from other people, because stealing away time is just taking away life. That is crazy. That is crazy to me that people will do that. So that is why I believe what I believe. Sure, it might be a little overboard. I get it. Sure, you could even argue like, you know what? They knew there were gonna be cheaters. All right, if you wanna say that, I get it. But it doesn't change the fact that it's not wrong, or that it's wrong, right? It is wrong to cheat in a video game. Let's just all agree on that. Kid Chameleon said, crossplay is the worst thing to happen to modern gaming. Change my mind. Yes and no. I think crossplay without the option to play with just console players is not a good idea. I think people, again, assuming that PC players are the only ones that cheat is completely laughable. There are, again, probably more people using a Cronus Zen or a modded controller on a console than there are people that are cheating on a PC by literal numbers. Ratio wise, probably not. The ratio on PC is probably higher, but the number of people cheating is probably higher on console. It doesn't do the fancy things that PC does, but it still cheats. Still does cheats. So I would say that if a crossplay is going to be in a game, there should be an option to turn it off. Or there should be an option to only do PlayStation versus Xbox. And then if you have a player in your team that is on PC, then those PC players will push them into the all-around lobbies. So if you have a friend with a PC and you're on Xbox or PlayStation, then you end up in lobbies that are all mixed. I think that is a good idea. I think that would be actually very even across the board. I don't know if anybody would have an issue with that, but I also don't know if that hurts the player base in the long run. I have no idea. I don't know how it would work. I don't know what games do it, but that's just my thought. Divizzlebro said, what I don't understand is if, according to Treyarch's research, if SBMM is so much better for player retention, then why are so many people actively looking for ways to counter it? I agree with what they're saying. I 100% agree with what they're saying. I think a ton of people hate skill-based matchmaking. I would also like to say that if we are to look at data, look at your screen right here. What I have is Warzone's search term, specifically on YouTube. I can change it to WebSerp. So if you look at over the past 5 years, Warzone blew up. This right here is all the way through COVID and stuff like that. And then we have the dip of people looking it up on web search. Even when Rebirth was huge and when Caldera was there, like there was obviously a dip, people going back to work and the game just not being searched as much on the web. If you, not image search, I'm sorry. If you look at YouTube search, you can also see that Rebirth actually brought a ton of people looking it up on YouTube back, right? So YouTube had a big bump. But either way, when you hit where Warzone 2 happened, you see this massive search wave. People were super interested in Warzone when Warzone 2 showed up. People were like, yes, let's hop in. Let's do some Warzone 2. This is going to be great. I'm super excited. And then it dropped off harder than anything else. This peak right here, April 18th, 2021 was half of the peak that they had with Warzone 2. And the information they had to create the game that Warzone 2 is led them to the lowest player count in Warzone history. They went purely based off of data. They assumed that Call of Duty needs to have all of these things. Lo and behold, the game's slow, the game's buggy, the game is not fun for the majority of players, and fun, not retention, should be the goal. So if you ever look at it and say, oh, well, they have this data, we should know how it works and stuff like that, data means nothing. Especially when you don't think about the fun factor. Fun is what's most important to a player base. if you have fun and you have a reason to play, then you'll have a great game. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. If you have a game that's fun and people have a reason to grind the game day in and day out that isn't monotonous and annoying as all hell, then people are going to come back to that game day in and day out. That's what it comes down to. So if someone ever says like, listen to the data says everything. Well, sure, you can have data points that say all this stuff. And I even talk about data earlier in the video, but technically speaking, you should be looking at how players feel, especially in a how players feel environment, right? Like something like that. That boy Pause said, as a mouse and keyboard player, I'm starting to wonder if there was a controller nerf. This would explain why a large part of the community allegedly feel that the game took a step backwards. I've been getting more kills consistently in the new game and winning gunfights I wouldn't have won at the same rate. First of all, yes, there was absolutely a nerf to aim assist, and I'll show you a video by Exclusive Ace that shows just that.
My character model turned in this case, and in Modern Warfare 3, my character turned 68 degrees.
68 degrees in Modern Warfare 3.
Whereas in Black Ops 6, my character only turned 25 degrees.
25 degrees in Black Ops 6.
In the exact same scenario. So we can already see at point blank range, the aim assist is significantly weaker in Black Ops 6 compared to Modern Warfare 3.
So there's your information. It's a ton weaker in this game than it was in Modern Warfare 3. There's a big change in the close range. And yes, so a lot of people are going to be feeling that. Sure, it's going to feel a little bit worse, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's why people are leaving. Realistically, my guess is that we're tired of getting year in, year out, over and over and over, 3 times in a row, very buggy, very buggy integrations. I think Black Ops 6 movement's fine. I'd obviously love for certain things to be sped up quite a bit. If you try and crouch, and I'll show you this in a little bit, if you try and crouch in game, it's like half the speed as it was in Modern Warfare 2019. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with a lot of what this guy has to say. And I think that mouse and keyboard players have a big opportunity to come back in this. However, there's still just so much like visual shake and things that cover your screen, like visual smoke, whenever you're shooting your weapon. There's so many things that are bad for keyboard and mouse that I still won't see myself playing the game outside of really like Plunder. I might make a video on it on the main channel, which one's better, but that's about it. A whopping 4 years in development, said Rod 2 Fresh, and we still couldn't get an unbugged version of the game. Okay, so no, right? So Black Ops 6 was 4 years in development. Most likely we're looking at about 1.5 to a year of development for Warzone. The reason why we know this is because they're working off of Urzikstan in the very beginning of Urzikstan, the released version of Urzikstan. So otherwise they would just be on a new map, or they'd be something like that. It does not make sense that they're using Urzikstan in the very beginning version, and they reset everything. So they didn't have that 4 years ago. They've only been working on Warzone specifically for probably 1.5 to a year. A funny one from APRZ said, make tutorials on how to install and use cheats until it gets addressed. I'm not gonna do that. No. Anyway, check out my second channel, How to Cheat in Warzone. No, I'm totally just kidding. Antonio said, respect your opinion and love your content, but people aren't degenerate for 2-boxing. First of all, I want to be very clear. I don't have an issue with whether or not people are using VPNs or if they're 2-boxing. In general, I think the skill-based matchmaking / engagement optimized matchmaking / retention forced matchmaking system is really stupid. I think it's very dumb. I think it's very manipulative, and people that want to fight against it, that's fine. I really don't think it matters. I don't think that there's anything wrong with you being a higher skilled and fighting a lower skilled player, because you're already doing that. You're literally already doing that. You're just nearly guaranteeing it if you're using 2-boxing and giving more of a chance if you're VPNing, right? That's basically what it turns into. However, what I don't like is when people hop in and they're making fun of the players or being rude to the players or something like that of the players in the lobby. That doesn't make any sense. Why are you being rude and saying, oh, wow, you're gonna lay on the ground? Yes, he's gonna lay on the ground. It's an 8-year-old child that has 2 claymores right beside him because he's never played the game in his life, okay? You used 18 different accounts to get into a lobby, buddy. I need you to calm down and not get hateful with people that are obviously 6 years old because you used so many accounts to get into a lobby so you could get a YouTube video. It's crazy how many bot accounts are on Plunder, says King Smash. Legit saw like 10 people spinning in circles. Funny enough, the Tactical Brit talked about this in a video recently, and I actually reacted to the video, but I'll show you the exact thing that he said.
Match, and also what appeared to be some kind of bot system. There were a number of new accounts who were literally just landing in, going into a room or going into a random area and spinning it looking at the floor. Enough of a threshold that they wouldn't get booted from the game, but not exhibiting any human-like behavior. And at first I thought maybe these were just guys who like ended up going AFK or like, you know, wanted to be on their phone or wanted to, you know, chat to somebody or whatever it so happened to be. I mean, I've replied to numerous texts in games that I don't care about, so I know what that behavior looks like. But it seemed to be a bit more weird than that. These appeared to be actual accounts maybe training to level up or maybe training to build a history, possibly for nefarious purposes in the future.
So what he is saying is that these are accounts that have been set up with like some sort of macro or something like that will go in circles over and over and over, and they'll be very, very weird. But what they're doing is they're basically trying to get trusted by the Call of Duty system so that these accounts can get sold, or they're accounts that are being used to basically reverse boost so that another like real player can use this account on the side so that they can then push into other 2-box lobbies. If you're going to 2-box, personally, in my opinion, I think you should use a completely fresh account. You should not reverse boost. That is not allowed. It is not a thing you should do. Do not do that. No, 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 no. Spuds McGeese had a comment that I don't even have to really comment on. I think it stands on its own, and I think he's absolutely right. But he says, you asked why I quit the game. Content and a lack of it. Bugs, glitches, and skill-based matchmaking are freaking annoying. But for me, Warzone got boring. Bugs and skill-based matchmaking are a couple of the reasons why I quit, but the lack of content is the main one. The events are really bad, and they treat battle passes and updates as content when they really aren't. The events that they did over the past year ended up being go kill a guy and get a thing he drops so you can get a skin, maybe. The loot pools don't rotate often enough. The meta stays the exact same for 6 months on end, and there aren't any casual modes outside of plunder. I miss having the 50v50 TDMs and that payload mode with the trucks that you had to escort. I was even one of the probably 5 people that enjoyed the armored truck mode, where everyone had a Bertha and could upgrade and shoot other enemy trucks as a battle royale mode. They weren't perfect modes, but it was something to do instead of sweating my ass off in BR. I don't like Resurgence, so I don't play that either, and surprise, Urzikstan will be here for another 6 months probably. It's boring. You know what else is boring? Having over 180 guns and really only using 3 to 5 at any given time because they outclass everything else. Especially when you go and look at something like Fortnite that has a ton of different modes, community-made modes, racing, Lego survival, their own version of build and zero build BR, the reloaded BR, constant loot pool changing, and even big events when new seasons and chapters start that affect the map and everything inside it. It's a feast over there for anyone to do anything they want, and honestly, that's where I've been spending my time when I want a BR experience. I played Warzone from launch up until March of 2024. That's 4 years. And that's when I quit. I still watch guys like you to see what the game is doing because I do genuinely like Warzone for what it is, and I want the best for it. However, until they start doing something that's actually interesting, I don't want to come back. Hell, even winning isn't fun in Warzone anymore, and that's the whole goal of a BR. I don't have a lot to add to that. I think he pretty much put it all in a nice little bow. I think there's a lot of other games right now that are just better, specifically Fortnite that throws in a ton of new content. I know a lot of people don't like the style of Fortnite. I don't like that you can't sprint for a long time, but people are eating over there. People are having a good time over there, and Call of Duty just isn't trying. They don't care. And it's all just a money grab for them. But what they don't know, again, is that if you'd focus on fun and stop focusing on ways to manipulate your audience, you'd probably make a ton more money. But I don't know. Maybe we should look at Fortnite. Maybe they're forcing people to not have fun, and that's why they're making billions of dollars every quarter. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Burka said they should just go back to Modern Warfare 2019 engine and create a standalone Warzone version running on IW 8.0. Game had its flaws, but was way more enjoyable than the mess we have now. Funny enough, this is what I mentioned earlier, but the movement difference is insane. If you look at Black Ops 6, you can see you've got no bunny hopping, right? And then you look at 2019, you've got good little bunny hops. Beautiful. Look at Black Ops 6, you've got slow crouching. And then when you look at Modern Warfare 2019, it's bounce, 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 bounce. It's instant. Everything feels right. It's very fluid. Black Ops 6, dropping to prone. Very, very slow. And then whenever you move back into 2019, you see you hit that ground quick. Everything feels natural. But the issue is, it's not actually as good as they make it to seem. It's actually slower than what Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, whatever the last one was. It's much slower than that as well. I just hate that we're being gaslit into believing this is much better than other games. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a fine engine, but I also just don't like where it's at right now. Patty Plays said, apologies if this gets mentioned later, but commenting as I watch, the point you and JGod make about the need to unlock attachments for Warzone is so important. I have so many friends who just stopped playing because they didn't have time to grind for meta weapons anymore. And to make things even more ridiculous, they have added a prestige system in now, which is them doubling down on the need to grind to unlock things. The prestige system does not belong on Warzone at all. First of all, I'm going to say the prestige system is not required in the slightest. There's nothing you need to do with the prestige system. It doesn't help you unlock things. The only thing you get to unlock is cool bundles and stuff like that. However, whenever it comes to JGod saying that stuff, let me show you what he actually said.
I think when it comes to Battle Royale, I think everything should kind of just mostly be unlocked. You should be able to build whatever you want, especially for Warzone, since...
Right. So there's just no need for you to have to unlock a bunch of things because people are hopping into a free play game. You're forcing, again, retention. It is very dumb to force retention. There should be a reason that people want to have fun and grind. You shouldn't hop on and have to unlock all this stuff. Everyone should have an equal opportunity to play the game. And it's probably the exact reason that we have metas that last so long is because Call of Duty has no reason to adjust the time to kill on certain weapons and things like that. They leave certain guns for a super long time because everybody has to go back through and unlock everything, which means that when people have to do that again, it's going to lower the number of people playing. And I don't know how we keep running into the same thing back and forth, back and forth. Golf said, I used to watch you with my dad when you played Black Ops 4. And man, with all due respect, you kind of fell off your shorts from 8 months ago. Barely getting 1K views, but you continue the grind. Huge respect. I hope you can get back to at least 10K again. First of all, Golf, I appreciate you watching, brother. What you said made no sense. Every video I post, at least almost every video, some of them get 9.6K, but most of my videos are 10 to almost 50K views. I don't sit here and say that to, you know, boast or anything like that, but I always think it's really funny when people are like, you fell off. Yeah, well, I also posted a lot less. I for the past 3 years, have taken about half of that off to focus on other projects. So yeah, I guess that makes sense that I fell off a little bit from the days in Warzone 1 when everybody was home for COVID and I was getting hundreds of thousands of views a day. Like, yes, of course, dude, I fell off. Most people fell off in this scenario. And finally, we have Squatch, who said, are you bald or what? And to that, I say this.